Welcome, everyone. I know that we have quite a few more people to join us, but we have a full schedule for our webinar, so I'd like to get started now. I'm Dana Payne. I'm the Director of DEI Initiatives, Diverse Cultures and Heritage with the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. And I thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I have with me Heather Dowdy, our Deputy Executive Director. She's going to help with making sure that we're all muted and help us answer any questions that we have in the chat box. Um, just trying to, hold on 1 second. Here we are. This is better. So just a couple of things while we're getting started. One is we'd like you to keep your mics muted. We have several minutes after each presentation to allow for any questions. Any questions that are not able to be answered within that time, we'll address those at the end of the webinar. And if we go over at that point, we have all of the we'll have the questions in the chat, and we'll just send the answers to those questions to the audience. So that is one thing. If you look at the top right-hand side to the middle of your screen, you should be able to see icons for the chat. You should be able to see icons to raise your hand, and that indicates that you have a question. You can react, and then over towards the right next to the camera, if you need translation, you should be able to click on the three dots that say that I think it says more underneath it, and access translation in a number of languages. And I'll add this information into the chat for you. So can everyone hear me now with this volume? Okay, great. So we'll be looking in the chat for questions, and let me get. Oh, there we go. So we'll be looking in the chat for questions, and either Heather or myself will help to address those. And then I'd like for us to get started now. First, we have John Orr, who is the Executive Director of Outreach. So John, I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to. I guess no one could see that. I'm gonna, sorry about that. John, I'm gonna let you share.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't have a ton to share. I know we only had a few minutes for today, so I wanted to kind of keep it pretty brief.
Sure.
My name is John Orr. I'm the Executive Director at Outreach. If you know us, it's great to see you. If you don't know us, we're an arts advocacy organization, or I'm sorry, a disability advocacy organization working within the arts in Philadelphia and the larger region to make sure that the arts are accessible to people with disabilities. We have a really community-driven change mindset. So we believe that the community should be leading this conversation. We should be listening to what their needs are. We should be listening to what the community wants and just implementing it wherever we can. I'm neurodivergent. That's why I'm going to kind of keep this a little brief. But I also have a team of people who my entire staff identifies as disabled. We're a group of chronically ill, neurodivergent, autistics, single-sided deaf, quadriplegic people who are really embedded in the community in a way that's a little bit different than like some other advocacy organizations work, where they're trying to solve a problem for people. We're we're kind of trying to solve this problem for ourselves a lot. So it's both a professional quest and a personal quest a bit. Our work with the PCA for the serving individuals with disabilities, when we saw the proposal came out, we wanted to really step back and address kind of every level of the sector. We've always been kind of an audience builder in the region, but we didn't like, right. So when we think about the seats that people with disabilities deserve in the arts, like, sure, yeah, the audience is great, but like their seat is also on stage, and their seat is also at planning tables, and their seat is also at leadership tables. And so we wanted to sort of step back and think about how we create space for all of those seats to start to emerge. So the first thing we did was we said we wanted to support a little bit of marketing towards our access program. Our access program is a program that some of you probably know or use and may or may not know it's from Outreach. But if you have a state access card for health or food benefits, um, or you have an Outreach access card as a person with a disability from Outreach, that gives you $2 admission to 87 arts and cultural sites across Philadelphia, Southeast Pennsylvania, Delaware, and you get in for $2 per person. You can bring up to 3 people with you every visit, which is kind of lovely. So you can go with your friends or your family, and you can go to the Franklin for $8, or you can go see the orchestra for $8, and it's great. When we started this project, we wanted to engage about 200,000 people with that program. And right now our fiscal year is different than the calendar year that we're on right now, but we already know that 127,892 people have used the program since this grant started. They've saved $2.3 million on admission and generated about an equal amount of peripheral spending that has come out of those visits. So that was our audience building initiative. We also started doing consulting for arts organizations to make them more accessible. But one of the things that we do in our consulting is we do discovery findings just like everybody else. And then we bring the disability community in to validate or invalidate all of the discovery findings before the report is finalized. So far, we have engaged over 205 disabled Philadelphians, and we compensated them because lived experience should be valued at the height of professional experience. So we had 205 disabled Philadelphians come in and validate initial plans so far this year. We just got grant funding to pay another 2,100 disabled Philadelphians over the next 3 years on our consulting projects. And then the final piece was we launched a project called Notable, which is a board and leadership development initiative that's going to kick off in January. We're going to have a number of disabled leaders or people who are in leadership positions now talking about the intersection of disability and leadership through the lens of belonging on a new podcast series that we're creating from this podcast studio that we've built in Center City, Philadelphia. Throughout that process, we're going to give all participants access to a one-to-one executive coach for 12 weeks, and we're also going to pay them for their participation over the year that they're with us. So that's kind of the gist of what we were doing with our PCA project. We wanted to get leadership, we wanted to get seats at planning tables, and we wanted to get seats in the audience. And I'm excited to see where we land on all 3 of those sort of metrics towards the end. I don't know if I went over or not, to be perfectly honest with you. I forgot to set my timer.
No, you didn't, John. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I forgot to add for our audience, the purpose of developing this cohort was so that we could, and by we I mean the Council on the Arts, so that we could learn more about the existence, the needs of individuals with disabilities, artists with disabilities, and the organizations across the state that serve them. And this first cohort of organizations is doing some great work. And I wanted to be able to share what the work they're doing is thus far. It's almost a 2-year project length. So this is the first in a series, excuse me, of presentations that we'll have. Does anyone have any questions for John? You can use the chat. Oh, we have a question.
Where are you located in Center City?
So we're kind of a hybrid organization, but we call it the Outreach Clubhouse. It's kind of embarrassing to admit. It's at Walnut and Juniper, so right at almost like Broad and Walnut. We relocated there about 2 years ago.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have a question? Okay. We will.
Oh, I think Aubrey has a question.
Oh, okay. Aubrey?
Oop. Aubrey, I
No.
think you're muted.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, Shakina, do you have a question?
No.
Okay, well, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay, that's fine. If you have a question and we've moved along from a particular presenter, just enter it into the chat.
Dana, if there are questions in the chat, should we just answer them there?
You can.
Okay.
You can, or you can answer them in the chat, or we can answer them at the end. Whatever you prefer.
Cool.
Thank you, John. And next we have Black Star Film Festival.
Hi. Oh, I think Aubrey managed to get unmuted if they want to ask their question.
Yes, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. The question I wanted to ask, I was listening to John's presentation, and I found it to be very, very interesting and also informative. But being from Pittsburgh, I'm the board chair of the Jazz Workshop in Pittsburgh, and we wanted to make sure we structure for ongoing structure like musicology programs for some of the disabled population, and also with the nursing homes and some of the populations dealing with senior citizens. So what's the best avenue to kind of to get on to in order to be part of that vehicle that serves the entirety of our demographic area?
Yeah, I think for Outreach, the way that the organization built out was originally with partnerships through human service agencies. So we started working, it built up to about 185 human service agencies over the years. And what we found there was that, agencies really liked engaging with the arts. We were just kind of collecting free tickets from theaters and museums and distributing them out. So a little bit of a broker relationship. What we found out was that the clients at some of the agencies didn't necessarily like the fact that the agencies got to pick and choose what their arts experience was like. And at the time, a few years ago, Pittsburgh was running a similar program to our Access program, but it's only active within the Carnegie institutions, I think, or the Carnegie supported institutions. We kind of took that idea and put it on steroids in Philadelphia to see if it was sustainable. And that program really grew, and we just saw it like the infusion of independent choice and how people could pick and choose where they could go with all these different partners. Keeping that price really consistent made it super easy for users to navigate. It changed everything at Outreach. It was a watershed moment. And it gave us access to so many more community members to find out what they wanted in different sites so that we could then work directly with them to start to pilot new programs at all of these other places on a small scale and start to build up the community pressure that was needed to like shift the art sector a little bit. I don't know if that helps. But
yes, thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Nihad Khader, representing Black Star Projects. And I am going to talk a little bit about Black Star's work around disability justice. And I use the term disability justice because we function within that type of a framework. So we think about inequities as they pertain to racial justice, the ways that, for example, colonialism also affect access and disability, and so other kind of functions of power and inequity around disability and access. And one thing to sort of make note of, and I think I'll specifically talk about the festival since I'm the festival director, but Black Star does have other projects that we work on. So Black Star Projects is the umbrella organization. I will say that there has been a learning curve among filmmakers, which is the primary artist constituency that the festival serves, of course, because it's a film festival. And some of those learning curves have some of those gaps have been filled by the heavy use of social media among filmmakers. So primary among that is the use of captions. We're almost at a 100% captions submitting rate. So we do a virtual festival and an in-person festival. And this year we made it mandatory for all virtual films to have captions, of course. And, you know, this is really helpful for a lot of audiences. It's very helpful for deaf and hard of hearing audiences. It's also helpful in terms of linguistic reach. You know, oftentimes it's really it supports an audience member to be able to read the captions for a lot of different reasons. Excuse me. One of the issues that is still definitely a work in progress is audio description. So audio description is films having description tracks that describe what is visually happening in the film. And a lot of times, in order for audio description to work in a film, a filmmaker really has to think about pauses in the script, pauses in interviews if it's a work of nonfiction, and how sort of a description of what's visually happening on screen can fit into the audio track of the film itself. So what we started to do, because a lot of filmmakers didn't know what, a lot of filmmakers do know what audio description is, but a lot of filmmakers don't know what audio description is. And another problem with audio descriptions that we were facing is that there were not a lot of Black, Brown, and Indigenous audio describers. So oftentimes there was a cultural misfit with who was providing audio description for films and what was being presented on screen. And so what Black Star did for 2 years in a row is that we offered an audio description training in order to raise the number of BIPOC folks who have the skill to write an audio description script and to audio describe films. We had 2 cohorts, and then those 2 cohorts then audio described a lot of our short films, and some folks have gone on to join audio description companies and do audio description for Netflix, for example, or other you know, streaming organizations. And then we also, you know, along with having captions, we have ASL translations. We try to think about how to make our space as accessible as possible to as much of our audience and our community as possible. And then in order to not be performative about that, we have to have a marketing aspect to the work that we do to ensure that the folks who need the services that we provide know that they exist and can attend the festival, and, you know, create the type of schedule that is suitable for their own needs as an audience. Other things that we think about is not just in terms of access for folks who have disabilities, but also thinking about access cards, providing $2 tickets to Black Star films while they're screening during the festival. We think about, of course, spatial considerations, and wheelchair users, and folks who generally have sort of mobility access issues. We think of creating a sensory friendly space for folks who need that. We have oftentimes very difficult topic films. So we think about the well-being of our audience by providing grounding for sensitive topic films before and after the film to ensure people's wellness is thought of as well. Group healing sessions for audiences and filmmakers. And we also think about the needs of the staff. It can't just be about the audience, the filmmakers, but the needs of the staff as well, and how to raise awareness around disability justice. So we now dedicate one of our panels at the festival every year to disability justice in filmmaking, in order to sort of make disability justice literacy more, again, the word accessible, but also just to raise awareness about what it means for film spaces to be accessible. I'll stop there, and we can talk more in the Q&A. Oh, can I just say one last thing that I think is really, really important? Sorry, it's in my notes.
Yes, please.
Access and accessibility and disability justice work is really expensive, and it's so important. And I think a lot of people are deterred in that work by how much it costs, that is a barrier to accessibility for disability justice. And I want all of us to be thinking collectively and holistically about funding this work and ensuring that organizations not only have the information that they need to implement these things, but also the money that they need in order to do it. And to think about disability justice in the implementation. So like hiring people with disabilities, ensuring that there are filmmakers with disabilities who are present on all of our spaces, ensuring that the topics of disability are front and center as well. So just thinking really holistically about all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for adding that in too, because I've heard that numerous times. Does anyone have any questions? Oh,
I have a question.
do you see Ethan's question? Could you give an example of some of the oversights that occur if audio describers are not effectively trained?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's certain things like one really salient example, and I'll just give this one, but there's a lot of examples you can think about. Let's say there's an audio description around like a Black character on screen, and you want somebody who's able to effectively describe this Black character in terms of skin tone, for example. And so that's what I mean by like culturally appropriate audio description. I think like an Indigenous person is able to much better offer a description of things that are happening around cultural indigeneity on screen than somebody who's not literate in that type of visual description. So those are just some quick examples.
I have a question. Nihad, who conducted your audio description training, and was there a fee for people who are interested to participate in that training?
Actually, we pay people to participate. It's part of access and accessibility is to make sure that people are paid for their time. And we've had different people leading the audio description trainings. But one person who's been pretty consistent is Thomas Reed, who is an audio describer, audio description narrator. He's a member of the Pennsylvania community, the larger, outside of Philadelphia community. Thomas is a member of our disability committee. We have an accessibility committee that helps us make decisions and think through things and critique our work. And Thomas is also blind and uses audio description himself in his own sort of as an audience member. And so it's been really great to have him be a consistent not trainer in audio description, but he's there to help our trainees understand what to describe, how to describe, things like that. And we've had other trainers in the past. Somebody from Artreach, actually, John. We've had somebody from Artreach be an audio description trainer as well.
Yeah, I think that was Nicole Sardella. Was
Nicole
that it?
Sardella,
Yeah,
yes.
she's great.
And
So
also
thank
audio
you.
described a bunch of films
I'd
for us.
like to move on to our next presenter just to make sure that we get all 7 in. But please, if you have any other questions, enter them in the chat. And next we have Creative Citizen Studios.
I'm setting up I have a couple images I'd love to share.
Sure.
Here we go. So Creative Studios are a small arts organization. Our core program is that we work with artists with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Language is always shifting, so the majority of our staff is defined by being neurodivergent or having a disability. So I really appreciate both John and Nihad what you shared, and I'm excited to be a part of this cohort. I was going to talk mostly about the work that was specifically funded by the PCA. So just to finish describing, our core curriculum is working with adults with disabilities who are interested in developing a professional career in the visual arts. And so we're bringing in artists from the community who are living, working artists, and have as many creative conversations between these groups of artists without disabilities on a weekly basis. The PCA funded us, and I'm sorry, my screen is acting real funny. Here we go. So we took our program on the road, and we are leading a series of arts workshops in community spaces. So this is an example of a workshop that we taught at a library inspired by the work of Matisse. So we talked about how Matisse is a person with a disability, and then talked about the simplicity and beauty of his work. And if people wanted to talk about their own experience as an artist, that was an open conversation. We've also taught workshops in local coffee shops. This is a coffee shop that has primarily people with disabilities serving the coffee, making the cookies, working behind the counter, and we're bringing our workshops to that space as well. Here's some examples of mixed media work that has been made. And this just some pictures from the classroom showing sort of what is happening when people are given really challenging materials and really challenging creative problems to solve. So, and thinking about how do you make a monoprint that is a one-of-a-kind print, and then continue adding layers and adding drawing, maybe sewing, other layers on top of that one base layer. And this is a project that has a lot of impact for people to begin to transform the way that they see themselves. And rather than seeing themselves as someone who is a recipient of care, they're really seeing themselves as an artist and a contributor. Here's some simple lesson plans. We don't always feature a master artist with a disability, but that is often our starting point. And this is some just a brief sort of thought of what's happening in these workshops, because I think on the surface you can say, oh, you're teaching workshops in libraries. That's nice. Libraries need activities, but I think what we're really trying to do is more grassroots advocacy and making sure that it's an empowering space. We are providing enriching activities that are engaging people with multiple senses, and particularly for spaces like day programs and group homes. They're mandated to go out into the community and experience life outside of their program walls, but there aren't enough free activities for people to actually participate in. So they're just going to a restaurant, going on a walk, or doing something for the sake of doing something in a public space. And this program is allowing them to do something that can be more meaningful and help them possibly discover a deeper interest in the arts. So here's some feedback that we're getting. So our workshops, we have been lucky to have pretty full enrollment at every workshop. We've discovered that there's quite a demand, and that people are really telling us that they are empowered by in the art space, that they are in charge of all of their choices, and that is not an experience that they are living on a day-to-day basis, and that libraries are becoming spaces of deeper and more meaningful inclusion. So I just wanted to share photos because I think that these guys tell their story better than I do. And this is sort of behind the scenes. This is what happens. You know, we're on the road. It's a little messy. It's a little wild, but it is ultimately a wonderful set. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Lee, I see your
Yes.
hand up.
Yep, thank you. I also put my question in the chat. Thank you
Great.
for that, Tirza. That's fantastic. I was so curious about how the clients find you or how you find them. I'm also very curious about, because I don't know where you're located, but I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about diversity within the staff, diversity within the communities you serve. I'd love to hear more about that. Thank you.
Sure. So we're located in Pittsburgh, and we have been an organization for approximately 10, going on 11 years now. And so as far as getting the word out, there is a very slow start that we had as an organization. For these workshop programs specifically, we ask each library partner or each public space partner to promote their workshop at like a bulletin board or something like that. We're also cold calling a lot of day program centers and spaces and letting them know that this is a free opportunity for their participants to join in. And the personal outreach calls have been the most impactful. Marketing is challenging and expensive. Nehad was saying, but with time and persistence, we're able to build a healthy audience.
Thank you. If anyone has any additional questions, please enter them in the chat. And next we have the Audio Description Learning Network.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
You can? Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was looking all right. Oh, and now I'm having problems. Forgive me for a second. Let me try again. Did that work? Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Etzold. I'm the director of an organization called Hello Arts, but I'm here as the project manager of the Audio Description Learning Network. We call it the ADLN for short. So I'm representing some people on this call. Marcy Bermusi from Hedgerow Theater, Lee Jackson, who just spoke, from People's Light, Tyler Melchior from 1812 Productions, and Sarah Blask from the Wilma. We are part of an existing coalition of Philadelphia area theaters known as the Accessibility Cohort. We meet monthly on Zoom, and this includes like 30 artists and arts administrators from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and we meet to support accessibility services in the performing arts, to learn from each other. This particular group of 5 organizations chose to focus on needs surrounding audio description. And so we submitted a joint application to PCA, and we're using PCA funds to train new audio describers for live theater. So very much the same thing that Black Star did, but in fact, we're even using some of your audio describers who Nicole trained. Thank you for that. But we're trying to support audio description for live theater, which is a totally different beast. So we are offering 4 paid fellowships in audio description, particularly to people who identify as BIPOC or LGBTQ+. Because like Black Star, we want to diversify the bench of audio describers in the region and better represent the art we see on stages. So everyone by now maybe has heard of audio description thanks to some of the other presenters. I just wanted to give an example, and you can see Nicole Sardello, who we hear so much about. So for example, the slide I'm presenting has a copper colored background and the words audio description in bold white lettering above a photograph. Centered in the photo is an audio describer in a black suit. She speaks into a headset microphone and holds a piece of paper in one hand while touching a shiny copper colored metallic wall with the other. 2 other people are one wearing glasses and another in a yellow raincoat holding a white cane also touch the metallic wall. Props, set pieces, and theater lighting grids are in the background, and they are in a theater. So in the theater, audio description communicates the visual information that transforms a script into a performance. So that includes the set, the costume pieces, the lighting projection, actors, facial expressions, and especially their movement on stage. And yes, it's all about timing. We recognize that the current landscape has revealed a need. I'm not going to go through all of these points. A lot of people have touched on them, but what we're hoping to do through the Audio Description Learning Network is share our findings more broadly. So what we've done is we've tried to create opportunities for time and practice at other venues. And we're interested in hearing about hearing from the community and from our fellows what we've learned so we can pass it on to our other stakeholders. We are in conversation with over 20 audience members who use the service and various access providers, including Artreach. As a learning network, we began by learning from them, and we started with listening sessions. I am happy to share what we heard from these listening sessions. We asked audience members, what would make your experience better? And then we also started figuring out how the 5 of us were going to collaborate together. So Hello Arts was brought on as a project manager. We created a website. We started a social media campaign. We were really beginning from square one, but now we do have a list of 120 constituents who are helping to inform this process. We spent a good amount of time researching equipment is a big thing we had to figure out, and also identifying blind coaches and audio description mentors to help these 4 fellows who are going to start describing professional live theater this year. So we began collecting resources for them. We created a rubric with Nicole and some other of the mentors and coaches. And our first audio described preview happened this past weekend at Hedgerow Theater, and we're super excited to continue throughout the season. We are going to keep checking in with everybody afterwards to see what worked, what didn't, and we'll do this at 3 other training sites around the city, including 1812 Productions at Plays and Players, People's Light Theater Company, and the Wilma Theater. Then we'll facilitate some listening sessions again at the end to see how we did and share our resources more broadly. Bring it back to the cohort of 30 plus folks. And I invite you all to join us. Please reach out to me if you want to join, because we do want to promote our findings. And also more to what Nihad was, Nihad, I don't know if I said your name right, I'm sorry. But I can answer more questions about the fellowship itself, but as advocates, we really want to model transparency around the money and hope that by us sharing our budget with you here is helpful towards deeper learning. We're going to keep reviewing it through our feedback session. We're realizing we're doing a lot of this for the first time for ourselves. So we really want to make sure that we are very transparent and hope this helps other organizations put accessibility in their budget, give it a line item. And that's going to be a huge step towards making it real. I sped through my thing. I have some questions for you all. If you don't have questions for me, I think that's it though, for now. For now.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat because we are at 12:43. How did we get this far this fast? I don't know. And I'd like for the remaining 3 organizations to share the work that they're doing. Next, we have the Lehigh University Art Galleries. Thank you, Lee.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not super familiar with Teams. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Not yet.
Oh, you can?
We see you. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint as well. Here we go. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Elise. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white woman with short red hair, and today I've got an orange sweater on and orange glasses. I'm the coordinator of accessibility at Lehigh University Art Galleries, which is a free public museum, which is under the umbrella of Lehigh University, which is a private university in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, located in the Lehigh Valley, about an hour north of Philadelphia. Our primary audience is our campus, but we are completely free and open to the public as well. Our museum has been around, our museum collection's been around for almost 100 years, but outreach and education programming is fairly new to the museum, following the hiring of our curator of education, Stacy Brennan, who's also on this webinar. And that's really important to kind of this access initiative because we're at a really pivotal developmental point for our education and outreach programs. And this allows us to very consciously and very carefully build accessibility into education and outreach that we're doing as part of the museum. So this is just a little bit of information about the museum. That we are a formal museum. The title Art Galleries might be a little misleading, but we are really embedded into the campus and in the community. We've got 7 galleries on campus and on our South Bethlehem Greenway, which is a walking trail in town. Lots of public space in our museum, student exhibition space, outdoor sculpture collection, tons of online and digital resources, and lots of free campus and public programming. And then the rest of this is just some photographs from a session that we had as part of this grant. But I've personally been doing accessibility and disability advocacy work in the Lehigh Valley for about 5 years. And I started this position a few years ago and was really excited that the new director and Stacy were really excited about implementing access into what was going on at the museum. So I was hoping that this space could be used as a laboratory for implementing access and accommodations and initiatives. And the organization has been really great about building in matching budgets in our education and exhibition budgets to support initiatives in our organization and to start a community and student disability advisory committee. So expanding access initiatives, but also building out relationships with other Lehigh Valley arts and social service organizations that serve individuals with disabilities has been a really big part of what we've been working on for the last couple years. And after some conversations with some of our really great community partners, we decided to apply for this grant that would support organizations in preparing for welcoming the disability community into their arts and cultural spaces. And this would kind of just to help open a line of communication between individuals that are doing access work at arts and cultural organizations, but also open a line of communication between the disability community and the arts and cultural community. So the result of the application that we sent to the PCA was a program titled Access Culture, which is a 6-part professional development series where organizations can participate in free workshops around disability and the arts. Some of these photos are from our first convening on November 4th of this year, which was just last month, where we had 2 presenters, Katie Sampson from Artreach and Cecile Shellman from Cecile Shellman Consulting. She's based out in Pittsburgh, to just start like an introductory conversation with the cohort that we've been working together with, to just start talking about access and things that people are doing in their organizations and kind of like a preliminary cultural accessibility training. So we had staff members from 30 organizations based in the Lehigh Valley and surrounding areas, as well as students from Lehigh University, as well as a few artists and arts administrators that are currently looking for employment. So the idea was to create a cohort of individuals that are doing access work in the Lehigh Valley, but also kind of open those lines of communication between the disability community and the arts administrators that are working to offer these services. So these are just a couple photos. We had an audio description tour run by 2 of our students that are on our student access team. As part of the day, just a couple photos of some of the speakers. And this is our lower gallery space that we have. So I know I went very quickly because I wanted to leave time for questions. Does anyone have any questions or can I answer anything?
Well, thank you so much. That was great. And that was a lot in a couple of minutes. I was just thinking about all of the great details in your work plan and the things that you all are working on. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions for Elise, please do put them in the chat. Thank you, Elise. And next up, we have Jasmine Colbert from Perry County Council of the Arts.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Colbert. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you. I will also share my screen. If I can get that. Actually, let me do this a little differently. If you're able to see it here. Okay, I think. Can you see it without notes? Is it appearing that way on your end? Okay, thank you. Our program was Inclusive Rural Arts. We are located in a rural area. Perry County is about 35 minutes northwest of Harrisburg, along the way to State College. And individuals in our area who have disabilities, they're often obviously operating on a fixed income, and they have very limited access to the public transportation. We're very spread out. Being in a rural area like Tirza had mentioned, there's a lot of downtime with limited availability of the public activities and programming. That includes all of the art classes, performances, and the other events that you would typically see in the larger cities. There are also stigmas associated with those who are or may appear to be different. The rural areas, like I said, we're spread out and we're not often all together in one place at the same time. The individuals that we serve are 3 to 4 different area agencies provide the day programs for those with disabilities, and their coordinators help to identify the individual programming interests, and they have input on the scheduling preferences as well for when we hold our art programs. And this is typically during the day, during the week when their programming runs. We try to connect with them then. And some of the agencies have shared ways that the community has been helpful in accommodating their needs, such as offering those free performances during their preview nights when they have their dress rehearsals. And we see ways, much like the Art Reach, where we could connect and facilitate those services and make people more aware of the opportunities that exist. PCCA offers quality arts programming locally and in the form of visual art classes. That's one of the regular things that we are doing. And we hold it in a safe, accepting, positive environment. Classes are free or they're just offered for $1 per guest. The rosters are made up typically of those with and without disabilities. In 2023, we offered spring and fall sessions of these inclusive art classes. The 1-hour classes ran for 6 weeks, and they were exposed to puppet making, collage, marbling, stained glass, jewelry, candle making, clay building, and printmaking, just a plethora of different items to get experience with. And there were 50 registered students across the 2 sessions that included those from the day programs and their aides, parents and children. The children may have had disabilities and were in other school programs, as well as homeschool families. And we encourage everyone in the room to participate in the project. Everyone, including the aides, appreciated having that dedicated time to sort of express themselves and develop their own artistic style. In the fall, participants focused on various drawing techniques. Looks like a lot there in that image. We sort of tacked up the things that they did over time over those 6 weeks, as well as some of the famous artist examples. They practiced light and shadow, color value, perspective, and composition. And they were able to select items and to create their own still life to work from. The participants expressed having gained an increased interest in artwork. They loved taking the time to sit and create and simply enjoy the moment. They valued making their own artistic decisions, like that empowerment topic, and learning how to express themselves through additional tools and techniques. And they accomplished things that they once thought were impossible, that they didn't think that they would be doing. One of our goals is to expand the resources by increasing the number of artists who are comfortable teaching those with disabilities. And to reach the goal, we provided mentorship opportunities during these classes. And we experienced frequent amazement by those who were shadowing, just about the level of trust they were surprised at the level of trust placed on the individuals with disabilities. And sometimes, like, we did candle making and some stained glass, and there was some ironing going on. But with the proper training and oversight, they were able to do it, and nobody got hurt, and so it all worked out well. Another way we seek to expand our resources is through ongoing partnerships with other organizations in the county who are doing classes like this. So we'll send our teachers over there to infuse with the teaching artists that they have and to learn new things, so that it can kind of cross-pollinate and come back to us with those experiences. They taught at a day program located in Western Perry County, so we were able to reach over that way. Heading into the second year of our project, we are going to seek to identify performers that have experience engaging with those with disabilities. We don't have many performers. We have community theater groups who may have more. There are some regulars, but maybe there are some more that they just happen to be in that year. So we'd like to seek the ones in the group who are interested in that. And then exploring deeper connections with senior centers and school special education programs to see where the gaps might be there that we could offer our programming. So, and thank you, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to do this work, to continue this work, and to just figure out more of the needs that exist within our community. It's enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? And probably for the second to last time, if you do, please enter them in the chat. And I am going to introduce our last presenter, Sherry Landis, who is the Executive Director of the ARC of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Sherry, are you here?
I'm here, Dana. Yeah, and I don't need to share screen. I'm not going to show our PowerPoint. We're just in the beginning of this program. So, like Dana said, I am the Executive Director of the ARC of Pennsylvania. We are the oldest and statewide organization representing people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So it's really unbelievable to be in this virtual room with all of you and that we're all saying the same thing. You know, it's about really access and availability and really creating a level playing field when it comes to life for people with disabilities. So we've been around for 75 years and we've had this contract for 10 years with the special education department around creating inclusive environments in the classroom. So what we do is we provide technical support to teachers on creating inclusive classroom practices. So this opportunity came up for us to work with the Council of the Arts and also the DD Council on uh, taking that inclusive classroom environment. You know, we're teaching teachers, but what are we teaching kids? And our incredibly creative staff came up with this Set It program. And the Set It program is really giving the voice to the individuals. That's what we're about. That's what the ARC of Pennsylvania strives to do. There is a saying, you know, nothing about us without us. So we cannot always be speaking for people. And the purpose of the grant really is to target kids in middle school. That's a really tough age where well, school's tough anyway. I don't need it's a dreadful place to be at times, especially for people with disabilities. So we wanted to create a forum where the lead presenters are those people with intellectual and developmental disabilities speaking to their peers. We thought it would empower students with disabilities to amplify their voices and talk to their peers about what makes them the person that they are. So we were talking about breaking down barriers, reducing stigma. We are in the very early stages. We hope to be working with the districts that we have the Include Me program in, but shockingly, we're having a very difficult time finding students who really want to put themselves out there. I spoke with a parent just recently and she said, you know, my son would love to talk about it, but it wouldn't be in his school or with his peers because he's been bullied. So we are trying to pivot a little bit about where we get our student presenters. Is it someone with an intellectual or developmental disability that may be out of the school system, but speaks to kids in the middle school district? So we're really still trying to figure out how we're going to move forward with this, but I have all the confidence in my team here and really about the people that we serve. So not serve, that we advocate for. So glad to keep everyone updated on the progress of that. Dana heard us a little bit of whining in our grant meeting about this, but we will persevere like we always do.
Thank you, Sherry. Does anyone have any questions for Sherry? Okay, everyone. Thank you, Sherry. A couple of things. One is I'll share the presenter information with the audience just to make sure that you can get in contact with individual and organization that you're interested in working in. I know that even before the webinar, we were well aware of, I'm sorry, I was talking without a video. We're well aware of the fact that all of this work requires resources, and one of the goals of the RFP to which these organizations responded to is to help us learn the best way to support the work, but and also the best way to encourage our counterparts regionally and nationally to support the work as well. So I think that we'll have um, a follow-up webinar in the spring where we can share additional information, and hopefully I'll be able to share information about resources, financial resources that will help everyone be able to do this work. And I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions that were not addressed during or after our presentation. You can raise your hand if you do. I don't see any raised hands. This recording will be available within the next 2 weeks. It takes a little bit of time to edit it, but we'll make sure that everyone is notified when the recording is available. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank my presenters for all of their hard work and their time to join us today, and you as well. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Dana. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.